Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is Ship Updates. Now, right off the bat, obviously 2.2 came out last night. It was pretty awesome of that to launch that, or pretty awesome of them to launch that. Basically about an hour after I went to work, so I was basically sitting at work thinking, how do I sneak out for about an hour drive home, start the download, and then come back and actually work. But I ended up downloading this morning and getting it all set up, and actually got to play through with the Sabre a little bit. I haven't put any fittings on it yet. I'm going to save that for Monday's Piracy Show, which is going to be dedicated to the Sabre, and a whole bunch of fittings and a whole bunch of theory crafting on the ship. Do not be surprised if that episode is something like an hour long, and I'm not even joking, because there's a lot of ground to cover. So, obviously, Sabre, flyable, big deal. I will be dealing with that on Monday, in depth. Also, Xeon Scout in hangar. Now, of course, if you've followed this channel or paid attention to anything I've said, you know that the Xeon Scout is one of my most anticipated ships. I have, along with the Sabre, I have a very good idea of fittings for that ship. I was trying to get in a question once again today as to how many guns and what size of guns will be on it. That question was deftly avoided by the devs in RTV today. So no updates on that as of yet. So it appears in the hangar to have only 2 guns. Whether it will remain that way, I do not think that it will, but we shall see. Now, moving on. Starfarer. Starfarer still looks like it's going to be in 2.3. They haven't said no yet, but of course, it looked like it was going to be in 2.2 and 2.1, but it didn't make those patches either. But in the end, it's all fine-tuning, so, it's one thing to be disappointed when a ship releases and doesn't meet expectation. I'm Vanguard comes to mind, but hopefully with the Caterpillar, it's going to hit in a way that is very, very impressive, especially for those who laid out the cash for that ship. And if it's going to hit anything like the Sabre seems to have hit, it's going to be one hell of a ship. And so far, like, just quickly, so far the Sabre, exactly what I expected it to be, and very impressed with it. But of course, yeah, Monday. Alright, Caterpillar. There's a bunch of news on the Caterpillar. They are beginning full production right now. They're doing some minor tweaks to the interior. That's Kirk Tomei doing that. And Calyx Renault is working on the floor plan, and there's going to be a second art pass. Now, whether that art pass is going to be drastically different, as in, say, the second art pass on the Herald, probably not, but chances are you are going to get a much more updated interior, probably along the lines of what happened to first run Cutlass, and then the Cutlass update, which is still in progress right now. No further updates on that, though. Idris. Idris, we found out on Around the Verse that the Idris is now in flight testing. So, if you laid out a shit ton of cash for an Idris, who knows? You might be able to play around with it soon. Now, of course, there is the lingering possibility that you won't, and that would be based on the fact that since it plays a pretty big role in Squadron 42, apparently, chances are they might hold it back. Like, I'm not saying it to be like, haha, but because trust me, I feel your pain, but they might hold it back just because they want Squadron 42 to be a lot of ooh and ah. So, hopefully it gets out sooner, but who knows. Endeavor, no news on the development. It's pretty far back on the ship scale, so probably won't be hearing anything meaningful about that ship for quite some time. Javelin, still in the works. Of course, the Javelin figures in Squadron 42. So they are, in fact, working on the Javelin in the UK. Nice flying champ. but no news yet as far as when we might be able to get a little more info, some more pictures, some more art, or even maybe a walkthrough on that ship. Though I do get the feeling that it is, you know, it's further ahead than people think, just because, you know, Squadron 42, we're supposed to get that this year. So I have a feeling that the Javelin has actually been moving ahead for a while. Hull series, no development yet, apart from the fact that it will start with the Hull A. So once you see the Hull A going, basically coming into the game, then the next ships will follow after that. I don't know if they're all going to be sequential or if they're going to skip ahead from one to the other, just because maybe one is something that they need to see, like maybe like the very high end of cargo hauling. They want to see what that's like, so they might do the Hull E before some of the other ones. Not really sure, but Hull A will be first, but right now not in development. Reclaimer, sadly no news yet. Herald. Yes, the Herald. The people who are working on the Xeon Scout are now moving on to the Herald. Now you remember that the Herald, basically its priority was lowered because none of the electronic warfare systems were really ready for the game yet. So basically what happened with the Herald is it got deprioritized because of that, which is the story of the Herald's life, being pushed up and then deprioritized again and again and again. So right now it seems to be moving forward again, but there was no indication given of when we might see that. Next up, small mining ship. The first round of concepts for the small mining ship are in, but you know, this is an art that we're going to see. I mean, if you're a subscriber and you look at some of the previous concepts for a ship like the Herald, and maybe I'll sneak in a little thing from the subscriber section so you can see what I'm talking about, what the very first runs of the Herald looked like. It's a big difference, so no real indication of when we might see that. They are working on different Argo Pods for the Argo, which is of course the sort of the service ship that goes along with the Idris, kind of like I don't know if you remember it, but in the very first Star Trek movies, there was a little kind of mini shuttlecraft that used to float around outside the Enterprise when it was in space dock, and I believe it was called like a worker bee. Argo, somewhat same idea as that. So they're working on pods for it, but no idea when that will happen. Drake Dragonfly. So they're working on basically they're theory crafting on what the Drake Dragonfly is going to be exactly, what the basic dimensions of the ship are, what its role is going to be, and how it's going to be built and what it's going to do. But there was one interesting piece of information that we got today, which is the Drake Dragonfly might be the first snub fighter to include a quantum drive. That got your attention. The Polaris, which is of course the new Corvette. The Polaris, they're doing basically the tech design. Same thing as, I guess, somewhat the same thing as just prior. No, actually, you know what it isn't, sorry. It's the tech design is they're kind of nailing down the what it's kind of what it's going to be all about, what are the stats going to be, where is it going to fit in, and then they're going to send it out for concept art. So I guess actually it is more like the Drake Dragonfly right now. No art for it, they're just nailing things down, and hopefully we get some details on that, and hopefully it will be a modular ship much like the Endeavor, so it can meet the expectations of as many players as possible. Hopefully. The Drake Buccaneer, which is of course the pirate interceptor. They still haven't decided yet if that ship's going to have cargo capacity on it, or whether, it'll be, I guess maybe the cargo capacity would be something that you get with the Cutlass, whereas the fighter would be more of a dedicated fighter. No idea on when all of that is going to come together, but hopefully we will start to see some details come out about that soon. There was no indication given if there was any concept concept art going out, so chances are it's probably sitting in the same place as the Polaris and the Dragonfly, which is they're trying to figure out exactly what it's going to be before they decide what it's going to look like. Now, also, of course, 2.2, we got that, and along with that, we got coolers, and we're supposed to be getting, I believe, we have power cores right now, but I guess right now the big components that we got are coolers. But we did find out something interesting about coolers, and that the more powerful coolers you have, they draw more power off your energy core, but they also cool your ship to lower your IR signature, so that way, relative to, say, a flare, if you launch a flare, if your ship has better coolers on it, then the differential between your ship's heat and the flare's heat will be even greater. So, potentially the better coolers that you have, the less likely it is for an IR missile to track you. Now, that also works for the EM missiles, which track your electronic signature. So, the lower the emissions of your power core, so the less power it generates or less power it holds, like, I guess like a capacitor to a certain degree before it has to, I guess, charge up. We'll find out more about that because we really don't have the power cores in our hands yet. But the lower it is, the lower your EM signature, and therefore the bigger differential between chaff and your EM signature, which means that EM missiles will have a more difficult time tracking you when you use chaff. So for people who fly a ship like the Sabre, who are very much focused on stealth and being difficult to track, these components might be very important to you. Of course, I will be once again discussing that in more detail on Monday. Now, the Glaive and the Scythe, though, these two ships are Van Duel in design, even though the Glaive is, technically the Asperia Glaive, which is, I guess, a human knockoff of the Glaive. There are no components for these yet, and I guess there was some indication given that, modules like power cores, coolers, shield emitters, and all that kind of stuff are probably going to end up having to be looted from the Van Duel, going back, I guess, to something I was saying a while ago about there possibly being a viable industry in making money and destroying Van Duel ships and just hauling away components to sell. Something to think about, and obviously it even further legitimizes the idea that it might be a cool idea to drive around with a salvage ship in tow when you go around destroying Van Duel, sort of like I'm doing here. But unfortunately, to go along with that is there was no update on the small salvage ship, so I'm not sure exactly where that stands. Now, today we should be getting a monthly report, and possibly next week we will see like a minor fix patch to 2.2, possibly 2.21, possibly next week or the week after, depending on how many bugs they nail down. So if you're if you're having some issues, hopefully there'll be a fix in for you real soon. Of course, every time a new patch comes out, I basically delete my old client and reinstall fresh. So honestly, that has really helped me a lot with a lot of my stability issues. So if you are having stability issues with the game, it's kind of a pain in the ass, but in the end, most times when we get big patches, you're pretty much downloading the whole game anyway. So, I just start fresh every time. Now, that's about it for ship updates. I try to compress all this down, but I am going to go into the Sabre in more depth. But there is one more thing before I close out this episode. Some of you may have heard, some of you may have not, but if you remember Mark Skelton, the guy with the gold shirt on the Next Great Starship, all-around awesome guy who always gives us tons of information in his interviews, his daughter was injured in an unfortunate accident, and they have a like a GoFundMe style page up. I forget what the exact name of it is, but I am going to put the link in the description of the video below. They had incurred a pretty hefty medical bill. From what I understand, people have already donated enough money to cover basically his deductible on the insurance, but I don't know if you want to throw in on that, or if you want to, just want to help out and add a little extra money to kind of help them out, or help, just help with the recovery, or just for random kindness. I don't know. That link is going to be in the description below, so if you want to help out, please take a look at that link below. Apart from that, that's about all for this week. Once again, on the Piracy Show on Monday, I will be dealing with the Sabre in depth, and then from there, possibly I'm going to sneak in another video this weekend, just kind of looking at the Xeon Scout and talking about that a little bit. But apart from that, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.
Quantum travel initiated.